You've mentioned in the past how with a lot of these guys coming back from injury, it's how they respond the next day after. How is Cam responding to a little more extensive work yesterday?
So far, so good.
And was today another step in the progress and continue to ramp up that exercise?
Yep.
Hey, Ron, with Dennis, obviously with the fickle nature of a groin injury, being on the injury report last week but still playing, is today a little bit more of a precaution?
Yes. Today was, I think, just going a little bit further in direction of precaution. We got a couple extra days. We were able to get some work out of him yesterday, so today's one of those days. I think that the rest is probably the best thing for it.
Remember last year, Eric got pretty emotional with Malcolm and the Eagles, or whatever he saw him. What have you said to him about going back to San Francisco? He said it's not a revenge game, but he definitely is determined, I believe his words were.
Well, again, guys play for whatever their reasons are, and Eric's got his own reasons, and obviously he's talked to you guys about it already. So, Eric will do what he does. He's a professional. He gets on the field. He plays the game the way it needs to be played. So, I'm not worried about Eric.
You were so banged up going to the London game. Are you pleased with how everybody's kind of rounding back into form?
I am so far. I mean, again, you just never know. It's just kind of the nature of the game, and we'll see how everybody feels tomorrow morning. But, again, we're a little precautious, a little cautious with, with Dennis today, and we'll see how he is tomorrow.
Ron, when an opponent gets a player midweek the caliber of Emmanuel Sanders, how does that affect your preparation for them as a whole and then him specifically?
Well, the truth of the matter is we know who he is. We know how good a football player he is. But you still prepare for what they do. And that's the biggest thing is I learned that from, way back in the day when I was playing for Buddy Ryan. He always said you prepare for what they do. They may have special players that do special things, but you always prepare for what they do.
Something that James Bradbury laughs about now, not so much in the time he experienced it, was having to leave the game against San Francisco to get IVs because he had cramps, and Marquise Goodwin, they were running 9 routes against him the whole game to try to make him tired. Having Dante and having a more complementary secondary that the skill sets are different, that I am sure makes a big difference this time around.
It does. I mean, we're fortunate right now that we've got good depth at that position. I mean, you look at what Ross Cockrell's done for us in the last 3 games, and Jadavian Elliott, what they've been able to do when they've had opportunities to be on the football field. So you feel good about if something else were to happen, and hopefully nothing does. But this is, when you get depth at those types of positions, you do have a certain type of comfort level with whoever goes in. So we just feel really fortunate right now.
You mentioned yesterday that with them, it doesn't really matter which back is in the game because there's only one football. Their scheme, though, is it based primarily on misdirection? Like, how have they been able to be so effective running the ball so far this year?
Well, they've got a good offensive line and good running backs. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. The scheme is what it is. You've got to play disciplined football. You've got to play, with an understanding of what you can anticipate and what you're going to get. People talk about the 3-headed monster, and I do. I think all 3 backs are good. I think all 3 have the same types of qualities, and so it really doesn't matter which one are in there. They have the potential to make a play.
Ron, there have been reports that San Fran pushed to get Emmanuel Sanders in time to play you guys. What kind of testament is that to have the league on notice, the defense is playing lights out, to where people are starting to make certain transactions just to face you guys?
Well, I think it's good for us, in those terms that we've gotten other people's attention. And at the same time, it's bad for us because when you see players that quality, they're trying to get them in so they can play. But again, like I said, the biggest thing for us is as a team and as far as we game plan and prepare, it's really about what they do and how they do it. And then you couple that with who does it, then you've got to go out and do it. As far as play defense again, so we'll see. I mean, again, it's what he's done as a head coach, as a coordinator. I think that's really impressive. He's going into his his 3rd year, and he's got a good group of guys that play hard for him, and they're really come a long way.
I was talking to Gerald about the defense, and he compared it to the Miami Heat 2012 scenario, where you have a bunch of guys that have had individual success, like D-Wade, LeBron and Bosch all coming together. But his point was that it takes time. So is what we're seeing right now the product of this defense now gelling together?
I think so, because the other thing too, and a lot of us forget, is that we didn't get Bruce Irvin back on the field till the 3rd week as well. So having the group of guys getting an opportunity to gel, to work together, get a comfort level with one another. I think that's really been really good. I think also for us as coaches, figuring out how to use them, what the combinations of players out on the field is, and how that affects the opponent. I mean, it's the same thing with the 49ers front. I mean, you look at those guys and they're rolling that group of guys through. You never really know which combination you're going to get, but you've got to be prepared for all of them. So, we've had to talk about the different skill sets of the guys that, our offensive line will face. And hopefully they're doing the same thing and preparing for all of our guys.
Brian Burns said he had to have a wrist procedure during the bye week. Was the timing of that such that you thought by doing it then he could come back without missing any time?
Well, that's probably was the reasoning behind it, more so than anything else, other than it needed to be corrected. As far as the decision to do it, that's solely on him.
Do you feel like you'll get him back at some point this week, or?
Well, we'll see. Again, he did the walkthrough stuff and was involved in that. Went through some of the individual stuff on the side. So, we'll see how he feels tomorrow.
We get to hype up two really good defenses in the NFL all week. Is there a specialty for you guys as coaches going up against a really good defense? I know you don't match them, you don't play them, but
And that's the biggest thing is we don't line up against them. And it's funny because people always want to talk about this guy against that guy, but quite honestly, they never line up against one another. Well, it's the same thing. We won't line up against them, and it'll be interesting to watch them play and see how they do things, and then get an opportunity to break them down. On Sunday, on afterwards, or Monday afterwards, and really didn't get a chance to compare.
Is that where you can, it's a big borrow and steal league, as I know you say, but is that where you can kind of get some ideas, particularly as you guys prepare to maybe make a run down the stretch?
Yes, it is. I mean, you pay attention to what's happening. You pay attention to, like if a defense plays really well against a really good offense, oh, wow, what'd they do? So you put that tape on, you flip through it real quick, you look for a couple of things that stand out and say, wow, you know what, that's not a bad idea. We need to take a look at doing some of those things. And, quite honestly, in terms of preparation, that's where some of the ideas that playing against the Rams in the opener came from, watching last year's tapes of their last few games.
Did you guys do a lot of work on Bosa coming out, or
Yes.
you have a lot of, what did you make of
We looked at him and then we stopped because we knew he was going to be an early pick. I mean, and you got to be realistic about when you expect a guy to go. So we just knew he was going to be gone.
Do you have any memories from Christian's first game in San Francisco when he was a rookie, 2017?
Yes.
Would you like to expound on?
Well, I do remember he made a couple plays that we missed him on a couple throws. That was probably one thing that stood out in my mind was that we had him open a couple times, and the timing of it was off a little bit. But just knowing that, with the ball in his hands, we know he's a dynamic player.
Do you have any words for him before the game? First game as a rookie can have those emotions and.
Not really. I mean, it's football. He's been doing it all his life, and it's to me, it's. You guys go out and do what you want. I mean, I don't want to put too much on what it really is or isn't. Just let them go out and do their thing.
San Francisco's been so good at forcing 3 and outs. How disruptive is that when you're trying to get guys in a rhythm and trying to get your offense kind of sorted out, especially?
Well, that's exactly what it is. If you go 3 and out too many times, you don't get an opportunity to develop that rhythm. You don't get an opportunity to kind of get into the flow and figure out what they're trying to do in different situations. And that's one of the things that you always want as a defensive coach, is that you want to get on and off the field as quickly as possible, because the less they see you over a period of time, the better it is for you, the things that you can hold back and wait to use a little bit later.
And what kind of lift is it for the team as a whole when you go out 3 and out, you get the offense right back on the field? Like, can you feel like that momentum kind of?
It is about momentum, and if you can do that early and put the offense in scoring position, that most certainly does help. And that's probably one of the biggest things that you always try to strive for. That's why we talk about takeaways and how important it is to to create field position.
Good. Thanks.
All righty, thank you guys.